Welcome to this Appsmith live streaming event. We are about to get started and our host and guests are getting ready behind the scenes, testing the audio, making sure they look good on camera, but more importantly, getting prepared for your questions. But while you wait, feel yourself at home. Get some coffee or water and make sure to be comfortable to start learning and growing. In case you don't know what Appsmith is, hey, that's totally fine. We distinguish ourselves as the most powerful open source low-code platform, enabling developers to transform ideas into reality with unmatched speed, security, and efficiency. From small startups to large enterprises, Appsmith allows you to build enterprise applications that solves real business problems. You can build internal tools and dashboards connecting to more than 30 data sources, such as databases, SaaS platforms, or APIs. Then, build fast UIs using the drag and drop widgets from our large collection. And finally, define your business logic using JavaScript. If you are an experienced developer, you can build custom widgets with your preferred frameworks like React, Vue, or Angular. We literally support any JavaScript library and framework out there. But if you don't know how to code, that's fine. You can still connect your existing platforms like Salesforce, Google Sheets, or HubSpot and build incredible dashboards, reports, and apps without writing code. Alright, I got confirmation that our host and guests are prepared to get started. So say hi on the chat, start the conversation already, and let's kick things off. Hello everyone, host Appsmith live coding session. I'm Kevin Blanco and I'm extremely excited to be here with you today. How's everyone doing? Feel free to say hi on the chat. We love to see where are you joining us from. I'm always excited about seeing the global community that we have here at Appsmith. Now, before we dive in, if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications because it really helps us bring you more content like this. If you haven't seen YouTube in a while, we have every Friday, the Friday Tech workshop that Joseph is usually doing. And also we have videos about how to self-host Appsmith and other videos that are coming up about workflows, reusable packages, and much more. Now, today we are bringing a crucial topic, which is building customer data dashboards with AI-powered charts. Now, for enterprises today, understanding your customers is more important than ever. But there's a challenge. Customer data is often scattered across multiple systems. CRMs, marketing tools, support tickets, like you name it. This fragmentation can make it difficult to get a clear picture of your customers and their needs. That's where Appsmith really comes in. Now we're going to show you how to create powerful, customized dashboards with charts that brings all the data together in one place. But we're not just talking about like static displays. We're going to leverage AI to generate insightful charts using stunning visualizations. Now, why is this important? Well, when your teams, whether if it's like sales, marketing, support, business development, you name it, have easy access to comprehensive customer data, they can make better decisions, provide more personalized experiences, and ultimately drive business growth. What sets Appsmith apart it is the flexibility and the speed. Unlike other solutions that requires complex data integrations or offer limited customizations, Appsmith allows you to connect directly to your data sources and build exactly what you need with your data. Plus, it's not just for viewing data, you can build in functionalities to act on the insights right from the dashboards. I already mentioned some that we're going to be talking about, like workflows and reusable packages in the future. But today, we're going to be talking about visualizing that data very easily. Now, let me bring on the table Joseph because he's going to be, as usual, bringing all of this magic for us. So, without further ado, hey, Joseph, how's it
Hey,
going?
good man. Yeah, excited. We got an awesome demo for today. This is probably one of the coolest things I've ever done with AI in Appsmith. Maybe one of the coolest apps we've built so far. So really looking forward to demoing it and kind of walk through how it works.
Excellent. Without further ado, let's do it now. Did you want me to bring your screen on or do you want to talk about the topic before?
Yeah, go ahead and bring the screen on. And before we get into the app itself, I'm just going to walk through like a basic chart and
Okay.
show why there's there's so much that you can do with this type of chart. And then the thing that we're doing today, it's a little more advanced, but I want to kind of show where that edge is and the limitation and why we're taking this other approach. So this is our standard chart widget. It is really easy to use, and every format, every type of chart that you want, you can just click the drop down, select a different chart type, and it all uses the same XY series format for the data.
Mm-hmm.
So if your data is already in this format, you're good. You can just pick any chart type and it'll render. If your data is not in this format, you still only have to transform it one time, and then you can use every one of these chart types. And as long as you've got an X, that's a text string for the label, and a Y, that's a number, any one of these options will work for the different chart types. Now, if you need a more advanced chart type than one of the, I think we got 6 or 7 of them here, then there's custom Echarts. Echarts is awesome. It's really powerful. There's tons of different options I'll show here in a minute. But with Echarts now, this data structure that feeds the chart, the thing that's config that's rendering it, it's different for every chart type. There's way more options, tons of formatting, tooltips, interactions, functions that run when you click a data point. But to get all that extra functionality, you have to write the custom config specific to that chart type. So we'll check out a few of the examples here. This is Echarts example website here. And I mean, there are some really cool advanced ones like heat maps. There's just tons of options, but like to generate these, it's a little complex, like to map over your data and create this structure here for, like, say, a Sankey chart. It takes a little bit of JavaScript to do all this. If you're starting with the same table of data every time and you're trying to make one of these charts, it's a little easier given that like initial starting point if it's always the same table. But man, if you've got like different tables of data and you want to use different charts, now you're just talking about like a bunch of unique combos of, if you want this type of chart and you're starting from this data, you're going to write a function that maps over the data one way. And as soon as you want to go from this funnel chart to a sunburst, you'd have to modify your function to map over the data differently. Or you stay on the same chart type, but you switch to a different table of data, right? That's going to be a different function. So to make this work with any data structure, any column names, whether it's a flat table or nested data, and to go to any chart type, there's really no way to do that with a traditional function, like a single one function that could just do everything. It would be a nightmare to write that.
Right.
So what we're doing today, we're going to use AI to write that function in the middle. It's not necessarily like generating the chart directly. The AI is going to give us back a function knowing the structure of our data. It'll say, okay, here's a couple sample rows. It's got a column for ID and priority and a status or whatever it is. So you give the AI some context about your data and the type of chart that you want. And then we can get the AI assistant to write a function for us to map over the data and create any one of these chart types. So just to go back to the basic chart here, again, if you're trying to chart some data in Appsmith, I suggest trying the easier approach first. Our built-in chart widget, same XY series data format, and it's just easy to swap between all of them. If one of these chart types doesn't work for you and you really need something more advanced, you might still just write the function once and hard code it, and that's the only type of chart you'll have, right? Or you could write a different function for each one. But the thing that we're doing today is more of a developer tool to help you write any function for any chart type coming from any data structure.
I see.
So I want to show a quick preview of the finished app that we're going to build, and then we'll jump into actually building it and doing some coding. So that's kind of the setup and the problem, when you've got multiple chart types that you want to create and all these different data structures that you're coming from. So here's the data structure for a pie chart. You got an object that says I want a type is pie and then some data, and that's it. This one's pretty simple. But then you get to the next chart type and the next one, and there's just so many different things that you would have to include in that function to make it work for everything, right?
Can you zoom in a little bit just to see that data structure for everyone who's watching? There you go.
Sure.
That's way better.
Okay.
I see. Mm-hmm.
So I have set this up already with an assistant that'll help us write the function and then create any chart type that we want. And I just want to show a quick sample of this working before we switch over and start from scratch and build this. So here we have a pie chart of the nationality. Here, this column is called Nat. And it's pretty basic. That's like the easiest chart I could do. So now let's do, you see this registration column? We have a date here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to try a stacked line chart with a line for each Nat showing registrations over time. Now we're getting to some more complex stuff. This would be really hard to write a function on your own to do all this. And what I'm doing is sending this prompt to an AI assistant with the OpenAI API and a sample of the data. I send it like 3 rows of data just to get some context about the field names. So it can write that function knowing my field names, knowing that this is nested. If you look at this registration date, it's an object, right? So that makes the code a little different than if it was a flat table. You got to know to go drill into that nested data. Now I'm going to copy this function that it gave me back and just paste that into here, the function that's generating my chart. And there we go. We have a completely different chart type. It's created a line for each nationality. You can hover on here and see the numbers at any point. And this is just one of the chart types. Let's do a heat map. Pick your own columns. We'll try that, see what it does. I could type. So I have this set up to where it's conversational. I can completely change it and ask for a different chart type, or it remembers the last question and there's that context. So if you want, you can say, well, add this or change that field or whatever. So we'll paste this one in and see what it looks like. It didn't pick the best column because they're all in the one row here, but it is a heat map. So maybe I should try this adjustment here where you can, talk to it and get feedback and say heat map of registrations per month. How about that? So we'll do this one more and then we'll switch over to actually coding it. I just kind of wanted to show the end goal here and what this is adding. The value that you're getting out of this is it's different code every time. In order to map a specific set of data to a specific chart type, it's a totally different function, and that would be a lot of work to write and figure that out. So yeah, man, this is what we're going for. Again, it all depends on your prompt, and this is like a 1-row heat map. It's not really a grid, but I think you get the point. So we'll be able to do this with our own data, and you can bind it to any data. This is just a mock data set that I'm using here, but you could have multiple queries. You could join them and then have it generate data across multiple data sets, like pulling from different tables and any chart type. So really cool being able to, skip all the coding and just get straight to the data that you want to see. So yeah, man, awesome. I think it's a good time to switch over. And what I'm going to do, I'm using a template, and this is a template that I built a couple weeks ago. Let's be back out here. Close this. So this is on the community portal. And if you're looking to integrate with the OpenAI assistant, this is like a real basic starter template that just gives you an input for that prompt. And then all of the APIs needed to create a thread. I'll walk through the steps here in a minute, but there's like 4 different APIs involved. And if you want to start using that AI assistant, there's a decent amount of work and things you have to build before you could even get to writing that prompt. So this template is something you can just copy and start using, plug in your API key for OpenAI, and then the ID for assistant, for your specific assistant that you want to use. And it's just a starter. Like it might be your only app. That might be everything that you need, but the point is you can build on top of this and then have an app that has AI already there, ready to use, and then you start building whatever else on top of it. So I'm going to use this template today and import it into an existing app so that we can add that AI feature rather than start from scratch and build all that, because I did a video on it last week. I have a tutorial. Let's see. If you check out the template, there's actually a link to the written tutorial and the video that are both out. So this will tell you how to, everything that we're skipping today, basically, this will show you how to do it. And if you don't want to go through it, you can just copy the template and then start building on top of that. So let's head over to this app. We're going to build a new page here. And we're going to do kind of a Zendesk clone here. I've got some sample data that's really similar to a ticket, the ticket endpoint in Zendesk. And this is a really good data set to use for charting because there's lots of columns that repeat. When you want to group things for a pie chart, show me the total of tickets that are a task or a problem, or you could group it by the status or priority, you know, or a Sankey diagram showing the users and then breaking that down into what statuses they have. So it really helps to have those types of columns when you're charting instead of just a bunch of unique values. Because then, you know, a pie chart where everything's unique just is a bunch of really thin slices. It's not all that useful. So we're going to build on this customer data. And I've got a mock endpoint here set up in Macoun. So it's generating on the fly, random data, but with some repeat values here that we can chart. So I'm going to import that same template. I've already exported the app so I can import it here. You could just copy the template and start with that and then build on top of it. Instead, I'm starting with my app and going to import that template to get those extra APIs. So just there's a couple different approaches for that. Let's see, downloads. Hey, and look at that. First error.
Here you go.
Yeah, I think I've done this on a couple different apps and servers, and I might have picked the wrong file there.
Right.
Just a second.
No
and
worries.
If we have to, we can do it the old-fashioned way.
And this actually tied back to the use case I was talking at the beginning. Like, this is just a sample of our customer data, but this could be your actual company customer data, and you want to build very quickly like reports and dashboards. And this is exactly the type of use case that we want to bring. Like, it's not just the technology, but also how many problems it's going to solve.
Okay, so I'll tell you what, since that's not working, I don't want to walk through all of it because that AI part, just to get all the APIs created, takes a while. So I'm just going to copy these over from the first page. But as I do it, I just want to show the basics of what's involved here. We're skipping most of this stuff because it's in another video. But when you create a AI assistant and you want to talk to it, you want to have that kind of chat GTP interaction, there are 4 APIs involved. First one is you create a thread, and that gives you back a thread ID, but there's no messages on it yet. It's just a thread. So I'm going to copy this over to page 2 and just do the same thing with these other APIs and kind of go through what they're doing. So add message takes the ID that you just got back when you created a thread, and then it adds a message to that thread. You got a body and it says, I'm the user and I'm adding this message. In this case, I'm taking a slice of the data. So those 3 rows to give it some sample data so it knows the data structure. And then the input, the actual user's prompt about what chart type they want. So it adds that message to the existing thread that we just created. The next step, now that you've added a message, you have to run the thread before the AI will actually read it and add its own response. So just adding a message doesn't do anything other than, you know, puts your message on there. It won't reply yet. So then you create a thread, or a run rather, and this will run that thread with your assistant. Okay, this is the second part of it is what assistant do you want to use? Now that you've built a thread and you've added some messages, you've got different AI assistants and they can all do different things. They're trained on different data. So here's where you say which AI assistant you want to use. And I'll copy this one over. And then the last one that we need is to get the messages from the thread. If you try to run this right away, right after you add a message, you'll actually see your message as the last one. It's not done responding yet. It's still like calculating and deciding what to respond with. And if you use the ChatGTP website, you'll notice the same thing. Like when you type a prompt, it starts typing back right away, but it's not done. It's still like finishing the prompt. Mm-hmm. And so when you run get messages, you might see your reply still, and you'll have to try it a couple times before it's ready, basically. So head over to the UI here. And
so this is the reason why we can't use like Appsmith AI. It's because we need like the assistant trained to like understand the structure of the Echart script, or what is the reason why we can't use like Appsmith AI?
Yeah, you could use our built-in Appsmith AI to an extent, and it might give you a decent response. But the AI assistant, this is where you can create your own AI that has a specific prompt and some files that it's trained on and functions and whatnot. And there's just more options here. Whereas like we do have a native connection for OpenAI for ChatGTP. That's more for like just carrying on a conversation. And yeah, there's a lot more that you can do integrating directly with the API. So we're kind of doing charts and AI both using a more advanced approach than, there are easier options in Appsmith for charting and for AI. But, if you want to do some of this more advanced stuff, you'll end up having to use the API. So,
all right.
Let's see. Let me get back to page 2. Actually, I want to copy the JS while I'm here. This one is just a couple simple functions. I'll explain when we get over here to page 2 and actually start using it. And then the last piece is the UI. So I want to have an input and this button. I'll just copy all of these.
And actually, I'm going to be showing right now on the screen the QR code to go to our YouTube channel, because you can see the previous live coding event that we had, because that's where Joseph really went through all of the steps explaining how to integrate with OpenAI. And in that moment, he was generating forms out of the OpenAI response, automatically regenerating forms with custom widgets. So we're going to skip a little bit on that part. Like he went over like the general overview of what it is to integrate with OpenAI, but if you go back to that video, you will learn not only how to do that, but also generate automated forms with Appsmith and also custom widgets and OpenAI. But if you want to go back there, you will check it out this step by step, and also on the community portal article that Joseph wrote.
Cool. Thanks, man. So let's see. Let's start out with making sure that we're at least able to get a prompt here. And now that there's a text string in this input, let's look at the first API that you run when you first start creating a message. You have to create the thread first, right? So we'll run create thread. That's giving us back an ID. Now I want to add a message to that thread. So the add message body, it should be giving it a sample of the data. And on this page, I've got an API called get tickets, whereas the other page it was get users. This one does not have it nested. There it is. So it's going to create a message, which is an object that has a role of user. And then the content is that sample data, and then the user request there. So if I send this, okay, we got back a message ID. So a message has been added to that thread. And now I have to run the thread before anything actually happens. I think that might be the right ID, but let me just double check. So right here is your assistant ID. Every time you create an assistant, right under the name here, that's the ID that you need to use through the API to talk to this specific assistant. I think that was the same one. Yeah. So we will run this thread now with that one message on it. And it's saying, here's a sample of the data. Now notice that running the thread, it's just got the instructions that we sent it. It's not going to respond with its stuff yet until we get messages. So we'll run this one. There we go. And there's that function I'm looking for. So we want to put this code into somewhere that we can display it as an actual chart. First, I'm just going to look at the raw text of it over here. So let's add the text widget, and the data coming back, it's pretty nested. Once you get used to it, it's not bad. But if I look at the data coming from get messages.data, inside there is another data. So it's data.data.
Yeah, it
Then,
happens.
yeah. And then we go to the first record inside of .data. You'll see this context is another property in there. So yeah, it's really, you really got to drill down. Then you go to .content, which is another array. Go to the first. Then you get to the text. The text is an object and it has a value. Okay, so we're finally there.
Awesome.
It's a lot. It's to get used to at first, but I don't know. All the AI chat type things I've integrated with, whether it's Claude or OpenAI or Gemini, they all have a similar nesting like that. And I think it's because you can request more than one reply at a time. Like instead of it just giving you back the one answer, you can say, give me back 10 versions, and so they'll all be separate threads. So I think that's kind of why it's set up that way.
And also the context and metadata, they have to send all of that back. So that's why the structure is kind of messy.
Yeah. So this is pretty close now, although it can't reply with the entire reply being JSON. It can reply with markdown. So these little backticks to say, here's some code. And then it's a string, but it's in a format where if you just take everything inside of those backticks, this part should be some good JSON that we can put into a JSON object. So I want a button to copy this. I could try to select the text here or whatever, but let's grab a button. And on click, we want to copy this. However, I'll go ahead and copy it anyway, and we'll trim the text, but then I want to add some regex to make that a little cleaner. So right now, I want to copy the thing that's in here. Instead of typing all this again, I'm just going to grab that. And so the text that we want to copy, looks like my copy did not grab that.
Yeah.
Something else I tried to copy a minute ago wasn't going.
Keyboard is playing against you. Style crap.
That is weird. Something's hijacking my copy and not letting it do its job. Zoom does that to me a lot too. Like the copy doesn't work on Zoom. I don't know. So we'll do it the hard way. I'll just type this. It's get messages data.
We'll practice this structure, right?
Yeah. I've done it enough times. I know where it's at now. I don't need to look, but it's still pretty nested. Text value. There it is. Okay. So if I copy that value, and we'll make a new JS object, paste that in there. So you can see it grabbed the code, but there's some extra stuff here. If I get rid of the backticks, now we have a function, and mine is called get tickets. So I trained my assistant on that first page of the app that we were looking at, and now we're on a different page with a different query. And I need to update my assistant to tell it what the field names are and stuff. But I think we're there. We can put this in a chart now. So we'll select the eChart option. And then right here, we want to put the response from that function, which is JSObject1.generate option. And there we go. So I asked for a pie chart, and it just gave me like a real basic one. Now let's say we want a line chart or a bar chart of priority. Okay, so this button here, it's adding a message to the thread. It has a callback to run the thread, because a minute ago in the raw APIs, I was like clicking each one separately. Here they're chained together, and then after it runs the thread, this has a callback to a function to check the messages. So I want to walk through how this one works. We'll go ahead and copy this and just test our new function real quick. So we'll get rid of that and that. And then it's get tickets. I decided to change this to the Zendesk type data, and that's throwing off my assistant that was always using the right names. But let's see. There we go. So there's a pie chart showing the different statuses. And now we're to a point where we can just start sending prompts and get back different chart types. However, I want to clean up this copy button. So I've wrote some regex to get rid of 3 backticks, however many characters, because it could be replying with, JavaScript, JSON, whatever format, if you could be using some other code. And the backticks, it always says like what language to use to format it. So I just want to trim that stuff off when I copy it. Now I've got a function here in this AI assistant. This just says if there's no data there, go ahead and return. Since I am using this other endpoint, I got to change this. I walked through and practiced this several times on the other data set and then change this one part, not realizing how many places it would affect. Okay, this should trim everything off when I get rid of the references to the old one.
So the reason this is happening is because your OpenAI assistant is trained also to understand what your query or your data source name is, right? Am I getting that right?
Yeah. Oh, it's get messages. Yeah. And so in the, there's the full code. In the assistant, let me show the prompt. So I got this prompt telling my assistant, your job is to write JavaScript to transform some data and help create an e-chart. The user is going to tell you the type of chart they want and give you a sample of their data. So if you're given this sample data, the user needs a chart that looks like this data. This is the final chart. So to get from A to B, you need a function that maps over the data and transforms it. And so I gave it a sample of how the data could start out, how I need it in the final format to make a chart, and then what that function for this exact use case would look like. And then its job is to look at the next chart type and the next set of data and figure out how to make those two connect and generate it. So in here, I've got a couple places saying get users.data.results. That's what's throwing me off. And if I change that to get tickets, that should fix it. So data, get tickets. I think there might have been one other place where I referenced it. If it comes back wrong, we can always keep changing it. There it is.
There it is. Get tickets.
But yeah, these are the little things where you tweak the prompt. So you'll run it once, you're getting close, and then you can come back here and add those extra little details so that the response works a little better for you. So we'll copy this output now, this parsing function. It is trimming off that backticks at the beginning and the end. And so now I can use my copy button to grab this data. So right here, we'll set this to the output of that assistant.parse message. And then if I copy this and paste it into my chart function here. So that should do it for us every time now. But this is the old response that's still got that add value in there. So let's see if we can do something more complex now. We'll do one with a couple different layers to it, different metrics. How about a nested pie chart with, what's that called? Assignee in the middle And let's do priority on the outer ring. So I've messed around with Echarts enough to know the names of most of the basic chart types. If you're not sure, just go to the example here and just scroll through and find one that looks like what you want so you know what to call it. Because as you're talking to the AI, it is referencing all this. It knows the names of these types of charts. So we'll copy that and see if it looks anything like what we wanted. Users.data. I don't know if that part's saved yet. Cool.
Jeez,
Isn't that insane, man, that it can just look at your data and generate any chart type like that?
dude, I needed this so badly like 7 or 8 years ago when I was a front-end developer.
It's similar to that talk to your data that
Right.
we built one, that's SQL. Several other companies have all these types of like talk to your data integrations, but they're coming back with just rows of data or maybe like just some stats like data points, right? This is like letting you talk to your data and get back a visual like that it's just so much more useful, and like at a glance you can infer so much more from it instead of trying to like compare a bunch of numbers in your head.
Jeez, man, yeah, this is amazing. Like, this is very powerful, man. I can definitely see a use value for anyone building dashboards on customer data, and they just need to very quickly build graphs on multiple of the existing data points, and this is powerful, man, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, you know what I didn't do yet? So one of the cool things about this is that since we're writing a function to transform the data into the chart format, since it's a function instead of just asking the AI to give us the final output, right? If it just gave us the config object, well, then when our data changes, we need to talk to the AI again and get a new updated config object with all those different data points in here. But because we're using a function to map over the data and create this chart, if the data changes, it's just going to update live on the chart. I'm going to make some room here so we can see this. I got a number of records here from the API. Look at this, man. Isn't that cool how it'll rerun the query again and then get you back all the data and rechart it? It's like live on the fly. You can drill into your data and see it change, and then some new records get updated and you can see that chart again, and then ask it a different question and look at your data a totally different way. Let's do a Sankey from status to priority. Starting with the template, this went way faster. I knew that if I tried to build it all from scratch in the video, we wouldn't be able to knock it out in an hour. But then by just starting with that already done, man, we're pretty much there. This is
yeah.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Isn't that insane, man? Like, I can't imagine taking any random data set and then just starting to ask questions and generating this like a year or two ago. Just would not have been possible. The complexity of a single function to do this would be insane, but it's not a single function. It's like it's writing a different function for us every time.
Right. Oh my God, man, this is huge.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's pretty much it. If you start out with that template that I provided, you can copy it, drag in a chart widget, and really the only other thing you need is this prompt. So I can put a link in the description. We'll put this on the portal and then have a link in the video so that if anybody wants to do this exact use case with Echarts, we'll share this prompt with you. But really, there's so many other use cases that are similar to generate code that you're going to put that code in between some data and the user. And we did one a couple weeks ago with that form generator. Same thing. We told it what type of form we wanted, and it gave us back the config object to render that JSON form. And it was just like this, where we're just giving it a prompt, and boom, you've got the next chart type and the next. So pretty powerful, man. I couldn't believe when I first got it working, but then only a couple chart types worked at first. That's one other thing I wanted to point out. So when I first tried this, the assistant knew what I was trying to do, and it gave me back something pretty close. And the basics worked, like a pie chart and a bar chart were working fine. But then when I tried a Sankey, it didn't work. And I kept trying to tweak things and adjusting the code myself, and I couldn't get it. And then I go to the docs and realize that there's a couple different chart types that are, so that's the E-chart one. Yeah, mermaid. I did this with mermaid charts too.
Mm.
And I'm thinking of Sankey charts from mermaid, not from E-charts, but I'm going to show it anyway, because you might run into this issue. The data that the AI was going off of from the last time it scanned the web or whatever, it knew enough to do some basics, but then there were newer chart formats that hadn't been like added to its database or whatever. So I just copied from the docs. For a Sankey diagram, I've got my prompt at the top, and then there's Sankey and XY chart. Here is another type that just wasn't displaying right. And so I copy and pasted that part of the docs into here, and then tried it again, and it worked, because it didn't need all the docs. Like it knew enough from the internet that it was getting that much right, but then just certain ones it needed help. And so yeah, I didn't really customize it at all. I just pasted that whole section from the docs in here, and it works.
Dude, and you already did the work for us of tweaking and changing. So I know you're going to share a little bit more about your assistant on the community portal. So again,
Yeah.
everyone, go to the community portal and create an account and see articles from Joseph.
So since that went so quick, man, we got a little bit of time left. I want to walk through the code that we skipped that's in the other video. You saw the parse message here. This is just using regex to replace those 3 backticks. The period here can be any character. The asterisk says this is optional. So it might just be 3 backticks, or it might be 3 and then JSON or JavaScript or whatever. Then there's a new line character, and I want to replace all that and the last 3 backticks with an empty string. So that trims off that first little bit so we could paste in the code. And then this one, async check messages. Like I was saying earlier, when you go to run the get messages, if you do it too soon, it's not done replying yet, so you're the last message. This is an async function that'll keep running every X amount of time. I'm doing 3 seconds. And it'll look to see if the last response was the assistant. And the way that API works is it'll say the last response was you until the assistant starts to reply. Then it'll say the last response was the assistant, but it's not done replying. So like you would have to keep clicking get messages until you see an actual response there. What this does is every 3 seconds, it's going to just keep running the get messages API for you until this condition's met, that it is a response from the assistant and that .text.value has something there. And then it clears the interval, so it'll stop running every 3 seconds. But honestly, man, this is optional, just convenience stuff. Like you could copy and paste that response and trim off those couple of backticks like I did the first time. And you could click the get messages thing manually a couple of times, you know. So none of this is like core to the functionality here. It's just for convenience. It's really just 4 APIs plus your data source, the thing that you want to analyze. So those 4 APIs and then a couple components, and you don't really need any JavaScript. It'll write it for you, and you paste it in and create any chart type.
Dude, that's amazing. Seriously. So I think we're pretty much done, right?
Yeah, let's do one last kind of crazy experiment here. Give
you
me
like crazy.
the craziest, most complex chart using at least 3 metrics. 2 is easy, you know, everything's got an X, Y, or a, you know, just.
So the cool thing is now, right now, you're not telling it exactly which data points you want it to use. It's actually just letting it be open to whatever data points you're passing.
Yeah. Yeah. Like before I was specifically saying this chart type and these data points.
Right, exactly.
Now I'm just saying do whatever you want. So let's see what we get. For whatever reason, that didn't stick. That
Yeah.
part to rename it. I've probably trained it by running it so many times with the other format. Whoa, okay. Neat.
All right. Okay. Interesting
Yeah,
stuff.
so it's like a separate ring chart for 4 different metrics.
Oh wow. So that over there is like a sneak peek on multiple data points. You can easily see. Oh wow, yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and then, like I said, it remembers the last question, so you don't have to be as specific. Let's see if it'll make the nested pie charts based on the last response.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's
Oh
different.
wow.
Okay, so it didn't nest. You can do nested pie charts, but it didn't interpret my question that way. It went a different direction with it, but still pretty cool, man. And this is interactive. You can like collapse and expand these sections.
Jeez, man.
Yeah, pretty awesome.
This is pretty interesting, man.
Yeah, I don't know any tools that can
Wow.
do this
For
between
sure
so
not.
many different chart types with no coding. Like even Tableau, you would really need to know the interface and where to click and which drop downs to pick. You know,
Exactly.
nothing does this many chart types with AI. It's pretty insane.
Dude, you have the flexibility from Appsmith to bringing whatever data structure into your charts, and now bringing the AI portion to understand exactly your data structure and the structure that the chart should be expecting on the function. So you
Mhm.
combine this together. Look, it's just we've been here 40 minutes, and you explain a lot of the OpenAI at the beginning. So literally, it has been like 25 minutes of actually just hands-on, and you got this already done. I don't think you can achieve this with other tools for sure.
Yeah. And, it's fun to sit here and keep prompting it and get different chart types back, which maybe that's the way you want to use it. But really, I see it more as a developer tool to you dial it in, you get the function that you want, and then you'd probably like copy and paste that and make a dedicated chart to where like this chart is always going to use this function. And then you might come back to the tool and use it again and get a different function for a different chart. But using the same widget and constantly changing the JS, like
Right.
it's fun to experiment with, but the real point is like it's a developer tool to help you get that function, and then you can go use that in your app, and it stays that way, for production. And then you can come back here whenever you need it to make the next chart. So,
Right.
yeah, this is a really awesome tool. I'm kind of blown away at how well it works. Like it's pretty rare that I get back an answer that doesn't render into something. They all make some kind of chart.
Right. 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 Dude, I just thought about a crazy idea, which is like you just said like this could be a developer tool and they just can use it and then copy the script. But
Mhm.
with reusable packages and reusable JavaScript, which is an enterprise feature that we have, you could have like a centralized portion where you have these functions that are fed by OpenAI and this assistant you build. And then if you want to do updates across multiple different apps that are fed by this specific
Yeah.
uh, package, that could be very easy because you could just make updates in one single JavaScript function that feeds multiple Appsmith applications, and that will be even easier because if you have like multiple of these functions in multiple apps, it's gonna be hard if you want to do an update. Maybe you go back to OpenAI, make another change, and it's gonna retrieve back a different function. You will have to update that in all of your apps. But if you have a centralized reusable JavaScript object, you can just change that and it will be applied to all of your Appsmith apps. That will
Yeah.
be pretty cool for a next live coding event, man.
Yeah. This would be great to combine with packages, especially in like a bigger enterprise org where you've got different groups, different teams that have, different accesses. They're not all allowed to access the same one, but then you'd still want either the exact same chart in those different apps, or maybe it's like the same type of chart, but it's their data. It's this department's data being fed in, you know? So the function would be the
Right.
same, and that could be a package distributed to all the apps. But then the individual data and the experience in each app would be a little different. So
Yeah, exactly. You have like marketing or support and business feeding different data, but the same function that renders the chart. Dude, that's awesome. All right, so I think we're going to be closing here, but before we do that, I wanted to share with everyone that we have a webinar happening next month, September the 26th, which is almost like a month from now. And basically, we're going to be talking about self hosting and the shift from maybe using a lot of SaaS tools out there into actually owning your tools and have everything on your own infrastructure. Now, before joining Appsmith, I was actually a software architect and then a technical leader. And part of my job was understanding which tools we wanted to use for our customers. And every time we decided to use like a SaaS platform, we always got like the same issues with where is the data stored, how is this data being treated, how can I connect maybe my own database but securely with my own IP address or my tunnel or whatever. And it's always the same problem because you're not self-hosting it, you don't have your infrastructure. Now, building self-hosting platforms 5 years ago was kind of hard because like owning products and owning your platforms were hard. You needed a lot of operations, maintenance, patching. But
mhm.
now today, like owning your own tools is fairly easy, and with Appsmith we do that very easy because you can have Kubernetes, which is based on our Helm chart, or you can use our Docker image, or you can use our Amazon AMI image. So just self-hosting Appsmith is extremely free, very straightforward. So we're going to be talking like understanding the shift from SaaS tools to self-hosted solutions, the benefits of self-hosting, some real-world insights from developers, because we have been sharing a survey with multiple architects and software engineers. So we're going to share those survey findings and best practices to implement self-hosting applications. So it's not just going to be me. We're going to have another invited and guests for this event that we're going to be talking about cloud infrastructure and how to best self-host different applications. And specifically, we're going to talk obviously about Appsmith. So I wanted to invite you there. If you go to the Appsmith website, you should see the top banner. You can RSVP over there. It's going to be always as all of these things for free. And just, RSVP and join and learn. All right, Joseph, any last words do you have before we close up here?
Yeah, actually, this is a developer tool, and that happens to be our topic for the month, for the monthly contest.
Ooh.
So any type of content, it's not just templates. It started out as just templates, but then we realized that like sometimes you can't share your data source, but it's still helpful to show how you built that app. You can write a tutorial, or you could do a video of it. So any type of content, template, video, blog post, whatever you want to submit, as long as it's a developer tool for this month. So submit anything that helps you build the next app. It's kind of a standalone app, but at the same time, dev tools are like used in your development process. So an app that maybe helps you build the next app, like we just did.
Right.
Let us know what you got. If you've got something you've already built, it's fine. You don't have to build something new. You can submit something you've already made. And there's actually a place to put in that canonical link if you want to submit maybe a blog post that you've already published somewhere else. That's fine. Like you can put in the source link to link back to that. We'll help promote it, and then we'll send you some swag. So every month we have a new topic, pick a new winner, and this month it's dev tools. I think we've done AI, and what else have we got? A couple kind of repeat themes.
Yeah.
Custom widgets is the other big
Custom
one.
widgets. Right. Yeah, just have the QR code on the screen. So everyone, if you want to go to the community portal or directly scan the QR code, like Joseph said, participate, contribute back to open source and win swag. Like that's a win-win situation over there. You're going to learn and you're going to win. So yeah, scan the QR code and you will be able to participate on this monthly contest, and stay tuned for every month contest because there might be a topic you might be interested. This might be not, but for the next one could be interesting for you and you can win some swag for sure. All right, I think we're cutting off here, but before we leave, I want to remind everyone to subscribe. Subscribe, subscribe,
Subscribe.
subscribe. subscribe now. So thank you very much, Joseph.
Uh,
Everyone who joined, see you on the next one. And remember to subscribe also to the webinar on NurseVP now.
cool. Thanks for the host.